Now let me move on to the page 11 of the slide. So it's a continuation change of the school journal. So in school journal, in the School of Colonies, here are some changes between before and after liberation. I think they intentionally changed. First of all, the color of ink was often changed. In around 1940, they used a black ink. Before that, they black a brush to make an entry into the school journal. But after liberation, they started to use the blue ink. And the left hand, this is a school from Taiwan. This is still kept in this school. And to the right, this is a photo of school journal from a Korean school. So the ink is changed, as you can see. And also, what is more noteworthy is that if you pay attention to things which are written in the blue ink, the year to be used was also changed from Japanese calendar to Tanki calendar or Taiwanese local calendar, Mingguo, or Western calendar. For the picture to the left, it's a name of cities mentioned here, Shoka. So in the middle to the left, it's say years 34. This is the Taiwanese local calendar of Mingguo. The revolution was the first year of Taiwanese local calendar of Mingguo, so they changed from the year counting system from Japanese one to Taiwanese one. So why these changes were made? It seems that the role of school journal is not to serve the nation but to wave our history. It is necessary too for identity formation. So when the line of we changes, so from where to where is us, when the line of we, when the boundary of we changes, there were things to be changed naturally, or there are things that needs to be changed. So that is my speculation on this. So moving on to the next slide. There's something that I wonder. So in school journals or schools in colonies, here are some changes before and after liberation. But there's sometimes when I find myself wondering why did the format in which the words were printed in Japanese continue to be used in the two schools which had incinerated the imperial rescript on education. Perhaps this is a theme for the next lecture series, but I think it is a good demonstration of the addictive or customary nature of the act of writing. So I think there was an unconscious understanding that an act of writing itself was something universal that could be shared by them and us. So whether it was them or us to do writing, the act of writing itself is universal. So I think it can be said that an act of continuing to write was recognized as necessary for the formation of our identity for them. So incidentally, this style of writing, vertical writing mixed with Chinese characters, was continued in many schools in Korea until 1970s. But even in 90s or even into the 2000s. Nowadays, format of school journal has dramatically changed in Korea, and very basic items are written in Hangul script and can be found in the principal's office. So now these colonial school journals that I talked about are now preserved in the National Archives of Korea, organization similar to the National Archives of Japan, and they are now digitally published as historical documents. So anybody can access these documents, even from Japan. Moving on to the next slide. So when we think about globalization of so-called Japanese style of education, tokkatsu, tokubetsu katsudo, the Japanese educational model of holistic education is a foothold for us. At my previous duty, I was involved in tokkatsu, and I looked at government guidelines of education. And if you look at explanations for the ceremonial events at schools in the current government guidelines of education, so as you can see in this slide, one of the major points of the tokkatsu is school events, among which ceremonial events plays a very important role in tokkatsu. And just explain the purpose of tokkatsu. And as you can see, the underlined area, I think you will understand what are focus in the government guidelines of education about the tokkatsu. So I think emphasis is again on solemnity, discipline, and rules. In 1946, primary school in Yambetsu, Hokkaido, the picture of emperor and empress was respectfully wrapped and returned. But then as to what they were using the pictures for, it was for a school ceremony to pay respect to the emperor. So the picture was used to pay respect to the emperor around that time. That's why those pictures were carefully managed and protected. So the handling of the picture at the Yambetsu Elementary School was very solemn, I believe. So while there's no such things as bowing to the pictures of emperor or empress in the current school ceremonies in Japan, but only solemn mood seems to be actively maintained currently in Japan.